Investigative journalism is usually demanding and sometimes dangerous. For African journalists, it can often be both. It's something Sorius Samora knows well. On assignment in strife-torn Liberia 11 years ago, he had first-hand experience of just how brutal it can be. As a fresh generation of African reporters go undercover for a new Al Jazeera series to tell Africa's story in their own authentic voice, this is their account of what's driven them, like Sorius, to go in search of the truth.
In 2000, we were sent to Liberia by British and American television to do a story about alleged war criminal Charles Taylor, the then president of Liberia. We wanted to understand the relationships between President Taylor and the Revolutionary United Front, the RUF, who were involved in a brutal civil war in my home country, neighboring Sierra Leone. But while we were here, we discovered something far bigger, a story that led to our arrest, our imprisonment, and our torture.
It is a bittersweet feeling, you know, now that I'm back here to try and go through what happened. You know, it's sweet that I have lived to tell the story, because there are a lot of people who find themselves in this situation who never get out alive. This was the hotel where we stayed, and it was here that the police chief and his team came to arrest us. I'm just looking through the tapes now to see if I can find, what I think actually sparked the arrest and the tension and the accusation here.
Nothing of what we shot for the original film has survived, but this is a tape I filmed for myself at the time with my own amateur camera. It was sent to me years later.
You know, even looking at this, seeing some of the stuff, it's hard to believe.
Initially for us, the key was getting our interview with Charles Taylor to challenge him about the stories of diamonds for gun deals he was allegedly doing with the RUF. But Charles Taylor kept delaying us. We were being strung along. We needed a lead. Then we got lucky. We heard about the illegal logging and strange goings-on at Taylor's private seaport in Buchanan, outside Monrovia. Even now, it's hard to catch a glimpse of this place. And as I walk through the slums, I am hit by memories. Memories of a very brave man who probably paid with his life to get the story out.
In those days, we were told that nobody, local Liberians, officials, politicians, even journalists, not dare to go to that seaport. They're not allowed because it was Taylor's private seaport. And we just thought, that's the cheese, that's the big story, and we went for it. That was perhaps the beginning of all the troubles for us. On the road, first of all, we saw some of these dozens of trucks leaving with this timber, and we got sucked into that. We followed these trucks and they led us to the private seaport. When we got to the seaport, we saw this ship that was offloading some boxes, some crates. We became curious. We started filming that as well. We didn't know what was in there, but suddenly a laborer walked over to us, and he then started telling us about the content, that there were arms and ammunition and guns in those boxes, and it was being traded. It's a barter system. They were being traded for the timber. So I said to him, why are you telling us all this? And he said, you don't understand. I'm a journalist. I've been forced to work here. I can't see my family anymore. People who worked before me have disappeared. If I tell you, I will die. If I don't tell you, I'll die. Either way, I'm a dead man. That's when I realized what we have to pay to bring these stories out.
That's when the enormity of the challenges and dangers journalists here face when they reveal the truth became clear. It's why this series, Africa Investigates, is so important. Anas Aremiyo Anas is an undercover video journalist working in Ghana who has become famous for exposing wrongdoing and bringing criminals to justice.
In many parts of the world, particularly here in Africa, people commit all sorts of crimes with impunity. But for journalists like Anas, corruption should be exposed at every level. Everyone should be accountable. It's not just the journalists who should have a price to pay.
For his programs in this series, Anas will turn the spotlight on Ghanaian con artists who dupe millions of dollars out of foreigners and reveal the impact of Chinese illegal gold mining.
The kind of journalism I practice is an extreme remedy meant to take care of extreme diseases. The people who steal and pilfer the kitty of my country belong to an extreme disease, and I am an extreme remedy. I am motivated when I see that the story I do has impacted on the lives of the innocent. I am motivated when I can feel that the little that I have done, when we talk of corruption, is helping uplift the life of my people. So the motivation is, it doesn't matter, but even if one life is impacted, I am satisfied.
It's funny. When I did In the Interest of the State, the first Cocoa story, I got, it was specifically targeted at Ghana security men. I got people from customs, I got people from the police, I got people from the military, I got all of them, and still I had government and police support in arresting all of these people. Once the mandate is clear that people are stealing the national kitty, it doesn't matter who gets into the line. If you're a minister of state, once I get you, I report it. If you're a district chief executive, I get you, I report it. If you're a police officer, if you're a military officer, I get you, I report it.
I was waiting for the Anas video to be shown, and that confirmed the reports that I've been having all along.
My kind of journalism is also aimed at empowering civil society, so that even if you have eliminated me, the mark I have left will be indelible in the minds of civil society. Because don't forget, they would have seen the evidence and would have known what the evidence is. It's true that we have all seen. So, Mr. President or Mr. Minister cannot come on air and say it didn't happen. We all saw it. So if you thought that you have killed me, I am sorry, I beg your pardon. Civil society will rise, and they will rise with such strength and ensure that you are accountable for the wrongs that you have done.
An independent press, a vibrant private sector, a civil society. Those are the things that give life to democracy. We see that spirit in courageous journalists like Anas, Arimea Yeo Anas, who risked his life to report the truth.
As for fear, I was purged of fear long ago. But you see, the reality is that when you hear the people who are busted, the venom with which they speak, you would see that there is the need to take some precautions. But hey, this is a profession I have chosen. It comes with hazards. You cannot expect to take a swipe at the criminal and expect him not to take a swipe back at you. I also try to keep a personal diary every time of who I suspect could be trailing me, so that in case one day the unfortunate happens, people should be able to trace and know that something is happening. But of course, there have also been a few scary incidents where people would tail your car. And so normally I wouldn't sleep at one place in a week so that one can make me an easy target to get. Also, I have periodic checks that is also done on me by some friends who would ensure that I'm always alive. And I also have a panic button that I can press when I feel I'm under siege and that things are not going well. Most importantly too, I never walk alone. I never walk alone.
Anas has created his own security network to protect him from the consequences of his work. But many African journalists end up operating without a safety net. And for those of us who do investigations in Africa, we know that following a live lead can cost you your life. Back in 2000 in Liberia, after our experience at the seaport, we knew we were onto something. We hurried back to our hotel to plan our next move, but the police were waiting for us. Once the police chief came, he gave an instruction, and suddenly the guys started holding us like sacks of rice, 2 at the top and 2 down our feet. They will swing you and then just throw you inside the back of the open truck. The moment we came out of the Mamba Point Hotel, these guys started driving, at breakneck speed like they're crazy, just twisting the car, zigzagging down the road. The houses were all dark and you just see the headlights, really just racing down the road. And then they would stamp in at us on our heads at some point, and then suddenly we just got into this gate and we had no clue where we were. And honestly, I never thought I was going to walk out of that place alive. We're now driving to the NSA, the National Security Agency. This is the place that we were taking the moment they picked us up at the Mamba Point Hotel. And this is a place that is notorious for torture. This is where they take hardened criminals, people who've committed rapes or people who've killed, This is where they bring them to beat confession out of them. So being taken there, you straight away know what awaits you. It's a difficult memory to live with, even though it's 11 years gone. It just feels like it only happened last year. In my lifetime, I've driven past prison gates, and I never understood what the word prison really meant. It was when these gates were shut behind us, and then we walked through those iron bars. That's when I realized that it's not just about your freedom and your liberty being taken away. It's about your person, your spirit being broken down. No matter how strong you are, no matter what you think, or what you've experienced in life, it just breaks you down, In 2010, death threats forced Zimbabwean journalist Stanley Kwenda to flee his country after he wrote a story exposing a corrupt senior policeman. Robert Mugabe's regime and domination of the media had spiraled out of control, and this situation was not uncommon. There are millions of people who are facing injustices in our world today. Social injustice, economic injustice. These people just don't have a voice to talk for themselves. For me and people like Stanley Kwenda, that's what drives us, acting on behalf of the helpless and getting their stories heard. Now returned from exile, Kwenda has a strong connection with the story he is covering in this series. That of Zimbabwean orphans on dangerous journeys as they exchange their desperate lives for the uncertainties of life in South Africa.
I want the kind of journalism that can better the lives of the people in Zimbabwe. I know what I do is dangerous, but I want to change people's lives, and I have no other way of doing it. I'm not a politician, I'm not a praise singer, I'm a journalist. And the only tool that I have to try and better people's lives is my work. This is where I was born. This is where I grew up. It is the only place that I call home. So I have to learn to live with the dangers that come with being a journalist in Zimbabwe.
Though Kwenda willingly faces danger to do the work he loves, the risk is too great for his wife and children. He has moved them to South Africa and is on his way for a rare but precious visit.
If you have your family at home, they become an easy target. They become a bait to take you out of the story. So I thought it's important to have them away from the troubles. So I try and make it up for them. Sometimes when I come here, I spend like 2 days, 3 days. I know most of the time it's not long enough. I always cherish these moments, and I just want to, for a bit, forget about journalism and really devote some time to my family. My wife, at some point, she was very, very stressed by the kind of job that I do. But I always try and explain to her why I do this. That's my passion, and that's the job that I chose. That's what I want to do with my life. So, of course, it's a painful thing for her to live with, but she now understands why I do this. I can feel journalism flowing right in my blood. It gives me the satisfaction. It gives me what I really want to do with my life. It gives me an opportunity to help change people's circumstances for the better.
In the cell, it was just seconds to hell. There was a bodyguard seated outside my prison door, and on the radio there was a phone-in program. People were calling, they were beaten, they were angry, they're calling for us to be killed, to be beaten. And, every time, the program is on, the guards will then come in, they become more angry, they will kick, they will beat, and, you get a sense at the time that the whole of Liberia was against me and my crew.
I really went through hell. I was crying for my colleagues. And then when I came out that morning, I didn't know what time it was, and I saw them in their own cells, and I was really feeling bad for them. And they just hugged me and said, "What have they been doing to you?" That's when I realized I was all alone. Like, I'm not going to see my kids again. These guys were really evil. These are the worst human beings. I've been caught by rebels, but nothing. It's difficult to describe what I went through. Some of it, because I had like this guy. I've never told anyone this. He was holding this long pipe, trying to shove it in my ass. I'm ashamed to even talk about this. Why? Why? Simply because we want to tell stories that these people don't want to be told.
We didn't know, but behind the scenes, international concern was growing.
Now, the case of the 4 journalists imprisoned in Liberia on charges of espionage has continued.
In Downing Street today, the Deputy Prime Minister had a chance to thank the Nigerian President, who has personally intervened on behalf of the television crew who are being held in Liberia charged with spying.
Africa, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, has also been in touch with the Liberian President, Charles Taylor. He's on the phone now from his office.
Hopefully that would be enough to persuade President Taylor that they
Nelson Mandela confirmed that he had spoken to Liberian leader Charles Taylor as part of his efforts to secure the release of the journalists.
I would appeal to him to release them.
Jackson says in a letter the 4 men complained of mistreatment.
For us, we had given up all hopes. We thought we were going to rot in here. But, we had all these powerful people working tirelessly day and night for us. And believe me, this was our corridor of freedom. But for most journalists here in Africa, working without the protection of the international community or international law, there is no corridor of freedom. For these journalists, their stories and the danger that comes with them is personal. As they take on corruption and challenge the status quo, anonymity is their only shield.
in the struggle to try and give a voice to the voiceless, to empower the innocent, people like our colleague are doing everything they can to turn the spotlight even on those who are in charge of the legal system.
In her film, G, whose identity must be protected, will show us how justice can be bought in her country if you can afford the price.
I would say that the story I'm doing right now is very sensitive. It deals with people high in the government, and it might have a very serious impact on their lives and their careers. That's why I decided I'm going to do this investigation anonymously. There is a risk to what I do. This investigation is likely to cause some people to lose their jobs or even their freedom, leaving them behind bars. If by bad luck I'm discovered and I'm linked to the story, I believe people will want to strike back and they will want their revenge. Once they do that, they may go after my life or maybe my loved ones. My passion in this whole thing is human issues and rights. For me, it is important to deepen my stories with real evidence, research and gather material, scratch below the surface and actually tell people the things they really need to know. I realised that having the opportunity to pass on information and tell people about where we come from means a lot to me. I come from a remote village where people survive by subsistence farming. The people in my village, they know what I do. They've read my stories, they're really proud of me. You see, I stand out because in my community they don't put much value on education for women or young girls. So there are very few women with good jobs who do something useful with their lives. I guess I've tried to show people in my community, especially young people, that despite your background you can be somebody who has impact, not just in your village but beyond in the country also. All in all, I think it's worth the risk. If I can bring out the evil, expose vice and corruption, hopefully I will make a big difference to people's lives and improve the justice system. If everybody were to say it's risky, I won't do it, then there's no way that these things will ever change.
Many of the journalists who will feature in this series are operating a sort of resistance force. They work undercover and their weapons are the facts they reveal in their words and their stories. But in most cases, they operate alone without the support of the world media that we were lucky enough to have.
This is incense, and in most parts in Africa, it is used to cast away evil spirits, bad luck, bad spell. It kind of gives you peace and freedom. And for me, given what I went through here in Liberia, I just think that this is the right period to exorcise that pain, that bad luck. I know I'm not going to forget, but I'm hoping that this will give me a new spirit, new freedom about Liberia and my work. For me and my crew, I strongly believe that we've paid the price, and now it's just a time to let go.